sort of dominance proof. So it's basically saying, well, I'm the strongest and I'm going to survive. And they're hugely, there's a lot of testosterone in them, far more than there would be in, say, a lion cub. They're born with teeth. They're born with their eyes open, which is very unusual for the carnivores. I mean, if you think of domestic dogs and cats, and they're sort of, when they're born, they're totally blind and they can't see anything, and they obviously don't have teeth. Well, the teeth erupt very shortly afterwards, but with a hyena, they're fully developed, and that's basically so that they can fight almost from birth. There was a leopard calling off to your left-hand side of your screen. So we'll just listen carefully and see if he or she doesn't call again. Some people will tell you that they can tell the difference between a male and female leopard call. I certainly can't, and I dispute whether they can. Scuttling in. Right, so while we just see what plays out here, and if we can hear the leopard again, we're going to go across to Jamie, who is on the tracks of the Birmingham Boys, as far as I understand it. So we'll cross across to the slight figure of Jamie and be back here in a little while. See you now.
The road yet, but I just want to go and double check around the dam just in case I did. Just having a conversation with Andrew while you guys were with James, and I've decided that it was more likely that they've somehow found an underground tunnel than we've missed the tracks of 5 male lions coming out onto the road. But it is always a possibility, and there has been a lot just having a conversation with activity. So we are just going to loop around and see what's happening. Let's see what we can find. And it is a much warmer morning than it was yesterday. I'm still only on one glove. The partner has not yet made an appearance, but I'm definitely feeling a bit more warm this morning. I've got a good feeling about today. So guys, while I explore and figure out what exactly is happening or what at least where the Birmingham Boys have disappeared off to, I'm going to send you back to James, who has still got some wonderful visuals of those cubs out and playing. So enjoy, and I will see you a little bit later, hopefully with the Birmingham Boys.
Not hooves, but little pads running across the termite mound. They've continued to play and provide us with huge entertainment while you've been away. And it really is amazing to watch this little one and how confiding she has become. I'm just going to move slightly out the way. Thank you, Gendre. I'll strain my stomach muscles. When I got here, I was trying to talk in a sort of quiet and conspiratorial voice because I didn't want to affect them too much, but you can see they're absolutely unaffected by us at all. Very nice question from Vivian in Chicago. Vivian, you want to know basically, is there a sort of typical clan size? Vivian, the answer is yes, there is, but it depends on the area. So in this Kruger area and in the southern Kruger, you'll find, I think the clan size is normally about 15 is the sort of normal size. But if you go into East Africa, where those big migrations occur, where there's a huge amount to scavenge and indeed to hunt, you'll find clans of up to 50 in some places. But a clan of 50 in South Africa would be, you never want to say impossible, but it would be highly unlikely. I think the most I've ever seen in one place was 20 hyenas. So that tends to be the sort of average size here. They do, often the bigger the clan will be. So in East Africa during the migrations, the clans will come together and hunt, and then they tend to be very large. Donna, you want to know basically what do I think the largest animal a hyena could take down is? Difficult one to answer because there's so many different scenarios that could play out. Donna, in terms of one single hyena, I mean, a powerful female could probably take something the size of a kudu down, but remember she's not so slow. I mean, compared with us, they're pretty fast. But they're not quick like a leopard, and they're not able to pounce like a leopard. So size-wise, if the conditions were right, say, and a female found the opportunity, I reckon she could take down something the size of a kudu. So that's about, a big male's 270 kilograms. So female about probably approaching 200 kilos, 150 to 200 kilos. So that's pretty big. But a big clan will take down buffalo quite happily. Not so much again in this area, but in areas where it's a little bit more open and they do more hunting than they do scavenging, they could easily take down a buffalo, enough of them. And I mean, certainly you read in any of the books that will tell you that the really big animals like rhino and elephant and hippo, that'll say only enemy man, and then young ones killed by lions and spotted hyenas. It's normally lions and spotted hyenas in that statement. Hello, Granny Billy Joe in Florida. You want to know, and it's a nice question, is that network of holes there connected underneath? So could she go in one and come out the other? Sometimes I think so, but not in this one that I've seen. Gendre is nodding furiously at me and saying he does think so. So when I first stuck my head in there about 6 weeks ago, no, they weren't connected, but the youngsters definitely do excavate quite a lot. So it could be that she has linked the two tunnels and is now coming in and out. So Gendre reckons that she does go through them. They won't do it sort of by default, but it's absolutely possible that they could. The little ones are voracious diggers. Is very concerned, or not concerned, but she's certainly taking a very active role with the other youngsters. Hello, Mackenzie in Norway. You want to know if perhaps we get albino hyenas. Mackenzie, it's possible. I've never seen it. I don't think I've heard of it either. But I don't see why it wouldn't be possible. Remember, though, that albinism in the wild is far more unusual than leucism, which is a sort of mild form of slightly lighter coloration. An albino hyena out here wouldn't survive very long because obviously they have no way to camouflage themselves. White and black are the two most uncommon colors out here, or the two most obvious colors to see. So, yeah, it's not... I've certainly never seen it. I'm sure it's possible, but I haven't seen it. And so the answer is basically that if there were any albino animal out here, is going to be difficult to, or will probably not survive long enough to be seen because they will be so obvious. Leucism, a slightly milder form of albinism, where the melanin levels, or the pigment levels, are just slightly lower, the animals do tend to survive, but not as long as normally colored ones. Very interesting question from Gail. You're surprised that lions haven't found the den, and why is that? Gail, we don't know that they haven't, remember, but what we do know is that those holes are big enough for the hyenas, the little ones, to get into, but much too large, at least much too small for a lion to get into. So, for example, that little cub will have excavated a shelf onto which not even the slightly older cubs could get onto, in the back of those holes. They're known to do that. So when they're born, they immediately start digging a sort of little hidey hole at the back of the den into which only they can fit. And so they'd be pretty safe from lions. And that's why the hyenas will move away from here and go foraging and quite happily leave the den unattended, would be safe in the knowledge that the youngsters are on a shelf at the back or can hide sufficiently. I think the most vulnerable at this stage are the slightly slightly older ones, and I think they'll have a bit more trouble getting into a hole and far enough away from a lion to be safe. But basically, I would say, Gail, that lions, you know, I know there have been lions in and around this area, and I'm pretty sure they've come past here at various stages. But you'll notice how aware they are all the time. I mean, the female is not relaxed right now. She's looking all the time, constantly aware. You see the rather sort of poetically looking into the rising sun. As poetic as a face that gnarled and mangled can be. She does have something of the look of a Lion King hyena about her. Almost imagine Whoopi Goldberg speaking out of her mouth. I must say, the dawn chorus has got a little bit louder. It's gone from a string quartet to more of an octet at the moment. Woodpeckers calling, lots of francolins, a couple of hornbills, some crested barbets. We had a Cape glossy starling. Definitely a slight anticipation of the end of winter. Although spring doesn't start officially, of course, till the 1st of September. August in this area will probably be pretty hot. So every time the mother turns her back, one of these little ones tends to bully the cub a bit. But you can see how they are very wary of the adult. Hello, little one. The adult is very wary of what's going on around here. I've not seen the adults quite so active at the den before. Hello, little one. You can just see the spotting starting to come through on the little one now. I can definitely still smell the fairly rancid perfume of the adult. Now, it's my guess, I think I was trying to guess the other day that these other two youngsters, there's one male, I think, and one female. And that's why, well, obviously they weren't born to the matriarch, because I think this one is the matriarch, the adult that we have here. And so there was no siblicide, or there wouldn't have been even if there were two females, probably. And I think that one's a male and one's a female. From looking at their penis and pseudo-penis, you can kind of see. So if we get a decent view of that, I'm sure Jean-Andre, with this super zoom, will get us a view of how you can tell the difference. It's not very easy, but if you see them together, it's quite a nice opportunity to be able to see how you can tell the difference. So, an interesting question about hunting and how the cubs learn to hunt. In this area, they don't hunt nearly as much as they do scavenge, of course, but basically they will learn from the adults. When they're old enough, normally at about I think it's about 6 months, they will start to accompany the adults at night. The adults don't bring anything back to the den, so completely unlike wild dogs, they will not bring things back to the den for the youngsters to eat. And that means that they suckle generally for a lot longer than the other carnivores do. Up to a year sometimes I've seen them. And so by the time they're a year old, they'll just be accompanying the adults on the scavenge at night. And sorry, Jean-Andre is instructing me to contort into various complicated shapes so that he can get a decent shot without my hand in it. So the answer is that they will not necessarily teach like, say, a cheetah will, but certainly they learn from the parents from scavenging and foraging with them. Drongo there. It's flown off, never mind. There's quite a lot of bird activity going on around here. There's a fork-tailed drongo and a puff-back shrike. Got a lovely call that goes. A bit of a bird party here. So I'm just going to let you sit for a little while and listen to some of the birds and see what you can hear. So you've got a couple of bird calls there. We've got all sorts going on now, and the typical bird party chairman at the moment, of course, is always the southern black tit, and there's one sitting just above us. I'm not going to get Jean-Ray to film it because you'll be blinded by the rising sun, but there's a southern black tit going just above us. There was an orange-breasted bush shrike, beautiful bird. Lots of francolins, like I say, calling around here. There's lots going on. We're going to just, while we wait for this bird party to unfold, we're going to pop across to Jamie, who apparently has got an update on those lions she was following, and I will see you back here in a little while.
Around looking for some other fresh tracks to follow up upon. I'm going to send you back to James, since the hyenas have been so very obliging this morning, and he can keep you entertained on that side. I'll see you guys a little bit later.
Hello everybody, welcome back to the hyena den, where the entrance just kind of slowly ease into position. Well, can in a 1.5 ton vehicle. Okay, Jean-Ray?
Oui, oui.
Go. Very sweet. Interesting to me to see how concerned the mother is. Gets up and goes to look, and every time these other youngsters look like they're going to bully her a bit, she just moves in like that, and the other youngsters move off. just heard some elephants calling. Well, calling. One of them shouting at another one. But it's a lovely sound to hear again. Yeah. Now, Chandra, I don't know if you can get in there on the pseudo penis of the baby. Can you see it there?
Yeah.
Now, that you can see there, the end, the tip is not pinched. It's pretty straight, and I'm pretty sure, therefore, that is indeed a female. That's the first time I've seen it like that. That's the best way to tell. Okay, so you can try and get, Chandra, they're all sort of starting to, for want of a better term, stick them out. And you can see the different shapes. I think that's a male. The one at the back there is a male. There. You got that, Chandra?
Yeah.
I think that's a male. And then the other one is a female. Oh. Right, Jamie has managed to find herself something quite large and impressive. So we're going to pop across to her, and I'll see you a bit later.
Welcome back, everybody. And as you can see, we did pick the right direction to go bumbling around looking for stuff. And we've just bumped into a very small herd of elephant. At the moment, I've only counted 3 just around us. But we are quite far from James, so the sounds that, or the calls that he was hearing from the hyena den, are definitely not these guys. But we've been sitting watching this female devour this branch. Looks like knobthorn to me, and she really has been enjoying it. As you guys can see, the baby is just trying to squeeze his or her way in next to mom. But there's a bit of a branch in the way, so it's kind of just tucked itself right in there. And both of them showing just how amazing those trunks really are and how incredibly dexterous they can be. He's still trying to squeeze forward. Maybe get a little bit of that knobthorn that mom is eating. Hello, little one. Ooh. Perfect height for scratching an itch. just getting in right into that spot just behind the ear. I've often wondered about the way that elephants' skin has sensory perception, because you see them, they have obviously very, very thick skin, very tough skin, and you see them crashing through bushes sometimes, completely impervious to the thorns that are there. Yet obviously a scratch like that feels really, really good. So they do feel very well, but obviously it doesn't feel pain in the same way ours might, or isn't as sensitive to pain because it is so thick. Here we have those amazing trunks that are so incredibly dexterous. They're very powerful. They can pull down and break huge branches, and at the same time they're so very dexterous and sensitive that they can pick up the tiniest thing off the ground. Can't quite get. It's interesting that she's stripped off the bark layer completely, which the baby has now picked up on. Now, very often elephants target the bark of trees just because it carries all of the nutrients for the tree. So the xylem and the phloem that travel up through the cambium layer of the bark carry either water or the sugars and the nutrients that the tree has produced. So that's why very often elephants will target it. But at the moment, it seems that Mom isn't all that It's an enormous amount, particularly because their digestive systems aren't that effective. So a lot of material, plant material, passes through without being fully digested and without being fully utilized. And I've often had people comment saying, and if you think about it, it makes total sense, because the one thing that we have in abundance is trees and plant life. If they were to rely on any other food source, there might not be enough. So predators don't reach these enormous sizes just because they wouldn't, but there's plenty of plant matter around. And it'll be interesting to watch over the next few months, particularly since it's been such a dry season, just to have a look at which plants and which part of the plants the elephants are going to be focusing on. So just watching their trunks at work, you can see how the baby is using that incredible trunk and the prehensile tip right at the bottom just to sniff his way around and feel his way around and decide which part of the plant and how he wants to pick it up and which parts he wants to eat. And it's such an amazing appendage, a trunk, because not only is it for senses of smell, but it can be used for feeding, for breaking things, for touching things, for feeling around. There you can see, using it as a combination of a feeling and a smelling device, just to decide which meal or which snack is next. Oh, found one. And elephants have the most amazing nerve pathways in their brain, and part of that is devoted towards their spatial awareness, which ties in very nicely with the way that the trunk works. So they have a very, very highly developed sense of the world around them and their proprioception. It's always fun to watch a baby elephant learn to use its trunk for the first time, much like it is watching a young baby starting to learn how to use his hands and to grip things. I don't always get it straight away. This one's now old enough to know exactly what he is doing. If we focus in on that female's tusks, although I think she's going to turn away from us now, but you can actually see quite clearly what I was going to mention next, and that is that most often elephants are what, as we would describe it or as we would understand it, left or right-handed. So in this case, it looks like this elephant is left-handed. She favors using her left tusk, and it is a little bit more worn down and a little bit shorter than the one on the right. So what they'll do is they will favor one particular side and use that particular side more often to dig into bark and to strip it away so that they can get to that lovely cambium layer. And what you'll often see them do with tusks as well is, if they can't quite break off a particular branch, they will wrap it around the tusk. So if you ever get to see elephants up close, they use those tusks to wrap it around and pull and break by moving their heads upwards, so they break the branch off the tree. So when you see an elephant up close, you will see there's very often a very defined notch in the base of the tusk. Heidi was wondering how old this little one is. Hi Heidi, welcome to the Sunrise Safari. It's great to have you on board with us. So I would put this little one as potentially older than 5 years old. Looks like, or around 5 years old. The little tusks are starting to come through, which happens at roughly around 5 years old. And they do have a set of milk tusks that grow when they're young, which then fall out at around sort of 5, 6, and they start growing their permanent tusks. Much in the same way young children will lose their milk teeth and grow their permanent teeth in. And for those of you who are joining us for the first time, I do just want to chat and eating things like this hardwood that we see in front of us. So what they will do is they will wear down those teeth fairly quickly, and they replace those teeth 6 times throughout their lives. So they have 6 sets of 4 teeth that will be there to replace them once they have worn down. And once they wear down that final set of teeth, that 6th set of teeth, towards sort of 50 to 60 years of age, then they actually start to struggle to really chew their food properly because there is no replacement set. And you start to see much larger chunks of food in their dung, and you know that you are potentially dealing with a slightly older individual. And they will slowly start to stop digesting as effectively because they cannot use their teeth as effectively, and they start to lose condition. And that's essentially what brings an end to an elephant's long life, and they will move to the rivers towards their old age, especially when they can no longer keep up with their herds, and they will start how an elephant's feet must feel to walk on them day after day with such a great weight on top of them. They are very specially adapted to carrying that weight. And it's amazing to think that in fact they walk right on the tips of their toes and the tips of their bones, right on the tips of the phalanges, with a soft spongy cushion underneath. And I'm going to see if I can find a picture to show you guys what I mean. Just bear with me for 1 second. So guys, unfortunately, I can't find the picture I was looking for. I think it might be in another one of my books that might be at camp. But following on to the It's interesting to, while we've had some fantastic close-ups of the trunk, it's interesting to look at the comparison between African and Asian elephants. Now, African elephants have the prehensile tip has got sort of 2 ends to it, the one at the top and the one at the bottom, used for grasping. Whereas with the Asian elephant, they really only have that one sort of finger-like protrusion at the top. So it's slightly different in the way that they've evolved. And I have no idea why those differences have come to be. It must be some kind of difference in the way that the lines split in terms of evolutionary lines. But it is interesting just to think about. So the Asian elephant will only have one sort of finger-like protrusion that will be able to loop around or hook around the food that it's eating. And it seems to me that the African elephant's 2-lip approach might be a slightly more effective one. can see working his way and maneuvering that branch around in the way that this elephant wants it to be. Oh, they all seem to be having a scratch today. There's my favorite part of an elephant, is those beautiful eyelashes that we just saw there. Oh, itchy ear, very itchy ear. And that branch is obviously perfectly placed. Good scratch. There's that wonderful tail, tipped with just a little bit of hair. And that hair is very, very coarse and very thick and almost wiry in feel. And it's always interesting to watch an elephant's tail because it will tell you a lot about the way that that elephant is feeling. And I will never forget training with a very, very experienced guide. I was walking with him to do my walking assessment, and we approached an elephant bull, and he told me to keep watching the tail. So the elephant bull was feeding, at first had no idea we were there, and when he did become aware of us, although he did keep feeding, his tail went completely still. And the guide that I was with at the time said to me, that's how you know he's aware of our presence, he knows that we're there. So it's always important to be able to read the animal's body language, and one of the most important ways that they convey that body language is through their tail. So I'm going to try and stay with these guys for a little bit. There is a road, I think, just a little bit further ahead, so we can hopefully get around them. Of the way that they feed and their various structures on their body, and just to get to enjoy their gentle presence, I'm just going to send you across for a brief link to James, who has a very interesting character.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Wendy. Wendy and Gendre and I have found a pig foraging and fossicking about for the rhizomes. Just started to hear us now, and so starting to move off. But what they do is they, especially this time of year, they're particularly drought sensitive, our warthogs, very water dependent. And at this time of the year, they'll be looking for rhizomes. And for those of you who don't know, a rhizome is a underground stem. So a lot of grasses, as you know, have got stems that either extend outwards, and so they form a nice lawn, and those are called stolons, or rhizomes, which is sort of underground storage. It's almost like a bulb, but not quite. And that's what that warthog will be looking to try and eat today and going into the sort of drier months. We came down into this area to see if we couldn't find a leopard, because there was a leopard calling a little while back when we were at the hyena den, and I haven't found any tracks. So we're going to keep sort of looking around this area to see if we can't find some leopard tracks. We left the hyenas because the sort of medium-aged ones disappeared back down into the den, and the mother lay down, or the matriarch lay down, and the really little one had a brief suckle and then disappeared back down into the hole to go and rest as the warmth of the day starts to build. You can see I've got my sun hat out now as opposed to my woolly beanie, and the temperature is now probably sitting at around 18 degrees, which is rather pleasant, I must say. So we're going to carry on and see if we can't find some leopard tracks. All right, Gendre?
Oui, oui.
Does that work for you? Oh, good.